Advantage 1 is injunctions. Trump applies the restoring injunction relief. Back in Charge 25, DOJ introduced approach to antitrust and IP holders no duty to license patents, SBs, and protections of other patents. Slater will bring back that fails. eBay will continue to deny injunctions. Osaka 23 courts deny injunction relief based on eBay's SB owner to be the first two factors. On harm or damages adequate SB owner volatility and vicious rights and change for technology incorporated by definition of license. Rather than exclude benefits from adoption of this technology. Court interpretation of eBay is distinct from FTC and DOJ policy. Osaka 23 SB owners often seek relief. Owners are dissuaded by eBay case laws and injunctions difficult for owners to essentially argue irreparable harm from people to any injunction. Additional considerations driven by FTC, but attempting to revive injunctions allows patent trolls to thrive. Lionel 24 bring back justice course edition. eBay find the first final provisions essentially limit FTC's use injunctions to affect businesses. FTCs cannot show irreparable injuries. Courts have the more balanced approach to evaluate consequences of consumers alongside the necessity that causes stock market collapse, crippling destroy firms and innovation. Shop 24 markets and investors in negative view litigation due to risk and uncertainty. Huge claims legal actions of environmental legal collapses of course. However, litigation affecting innovative activities and investment judgment positive decisions between litigation stock collapses. Stock price to empirically test use firms over 668 from your observations to 70 fees patent litigation occurs 1 year risk of stock price. Cross firms involved exposed to unknown risk exposed with associated with litigation with market and investors can pessimistic while litigation over stock price increasing risk of stock price collapse. The chilling effect is statistically and economically insignificant. Share 23 stifle innovation investors cost $500 billion of loss affects others' ability to go into the NP state convention IT section defense and the model risk looking litigation of several affects significant body loss around finally of cases at risk of technology incurred loss of $29.8 million when NPs sue investors react to lawsuits strategies declining wealth due to litigation extends for technology peers effects are statistically and economically significant if firms are affected as rather than identify existing literature. Startups are key losing them cost of collapse. The 823 down firms are important for growth successful goals and improvements which promote growth. Startups unfortunately contribute 25% growth to comes to is a kind of entering firms declining costs of global nuclear war extinction oil 24 slow growth transcend borders strictly political and social instability escalate global geopolitical tensions while the US Russia China run no news from escalating into all out nuclear conflict following financial crisis enter negative percent competition driven by loss COVID Ukraine and loss of rights of balkanized the internet within US border shaping trade and altering distribution pricing food for critical minerals to hinder the clean energy transition increasing difficult for companies to find the public goods to keep inflation leading to more volatility and devastates existential risk mitigation no lock NL 24 war insurgencies great power center making economic instability into the objectives cyber threats pandemics and climate wars to appropriate on a global scale challenge to mitigate the economic objectives must remain capable of preserving peace requires mechanisms correct for negotiate and safeguard sea land strong environmental agreements econ guard safeguards econ ties safeguard against hostility injunctions skill innovation need 24 prioritizing valid and infringement patents for stakeholders' interests and justice to stop fair competition and strategy leads to overpayments and stifle innovation with both the U.S. District Court ordered injunctions to pay for the market and solution. U.S. BTO court's decisions found 1 and 4 asserted patents invalid in high-stake cases. Patents were initially claimed to infringe. Ultimately, failed scrutiny and litigation. Findings found the courts recognized only 1 out of 8, only 8 patents were valid. The courts found 1 not valid and infringed, which shrink the negotiation scope and reduce the amount of royalties due. All patents survived as naked royalty unreasonable and unfair. Open innovation safeguards humanity from existential emerging California AT. All problems are complex new weapons, biotech, engineering, nanotech, genetics, and robotics, humankind, collaboration, social innovations, improve capacity to manage all sectors to include survival, openness necessary for evolution to manage tech 3D prints and allows enables us to create any products and bring unlimited wealth under low openness. These controls expensive discovery associated with gridlock openness, optimal to manage tech collective, intel leverage keep things with threats are saving grace. Advantage 2 is 5G. The eBay decision halted injunction relief, greenlighting limited infringement and patent holdup. 1 and 23 ending license grants of infringement. eBay extension on the remedies, limited availability, injunction relief under post-eBay forms. Harmony uses of patent technology encourages firms to adopt holdout leads to license use undervalue leads render the infringement rational strategy for significant categories in the absence of the infringer extracts the revenues from use of technology while the owner receives nothing. Marketing shifts to the infringer results in royalty that's lower than the ultimate cost with limitations on availability. It was an inefficient state of affairs that runs counter to providing a level playing field that specifically hurts standard essential patents 1 and 2 3. SCPs cover critical technology behind 5 communication standards. SCP owners hold out to revenue regulators can find licensing waivers to seek contractual relief. Owners can only threaten infringements with monetary damages based on reasonable standard. SCP owners operate under no injunction laws against such owners will hold out by selling negotiations, compelling penalties to bear costs and delay in pursuing litigation, efficient infringement, where cost benefits outweigh the costs. The resulting unenforcement collapses 5G innovation. Course 23 innovation system is the basis for competitive and strategic advantage. Underpinning dynamic system, robust framework and standards set the pace for innovation. Share platforms and participants work together where promote interoperability standards. Law forms to share ideas, collaborate with other SCPs. In course, the important that IoT cause APs and AI, other emerging tech by technology, in search of belief, security, uncertainty policy, reduce value, negative possibilities of innovation, minimize reliability, 5P mechanism, verb, enable firms to invest in risky RD requires an immediate beneficiaries based on China usual practices in engagement with licenses, global devaluing US patents reduces value of licenses and price of Chinese implementation pay for innovation. China has global strong innovations going investment in standards and setting standards, strong IP rights play a fundamental role in ensuring companies to compensate and incentivize to contribute. Inventions often enforce SCPs only global companies such as China will compete. SCPs are the global international innovation collaboration at R&D. Board has 24 standards for cooperation, competition, creative, common language for innovation, allowing firms to collaborate for critical technology given standard influence whose products succeed on focus. SCPs give action R&D efforts to create next generation product standard. Once use plans and SCPs models and understanding incentivized companies to invest in foundational critical industries, global standards, nations guide standards in favor of domestic revenue generating to invest in next generation technology from R&D required. Trump's revenue will be less able to cause losing influence. U.S. R&D powerhouses for technology. SCPs lead the way. SCPs benefit commercially from this. Outpacing China on 5G is key to maintain credible deterrence. Sanchez 21. U.S. superiority. Second country high Germany powers wants to shift the balance. Acquire status because they develop tech innovation and impact the economy when power slows down. It's great. After struggle with follower powers, economic development maintained through innovation generally slow perfects. China create new tech crisis security, techno rivalry, adopt techno nationalist approach to new folks that remove barriers that unleash potential initiatives as the nation to follow to fulfill two sectarian goals in the U.S. for Beijing competition to avoid best avoid conflicts necessary to maintain economic and tech inventions because every domain is consistently to incorporate actions to ensure U.S. military invention. Compete with China rivalry from the Indo-Pacific. China is seeking global protection and now places their huge investments to tech to support superiority. China investing military power to weaken U.S. damage advantages, project power beyond shores, love first line competition and innovation. China review new China AI development plan and spending supplementary fusion crucial for U.S. will offset that. Continental capacity with U.S. against China lacks internal balancing based on econ capabilities, tech strength, risk of losing is real. It's the prerequisite to all military power. Broken 19. 5G strategic battlefield implications. Military reaped advantages by employing tech innovative, potential improving comms casting and the custom military systems for robotics in the air and made possible to 5G strategic implications of Google's 5G infra. Undisclosed national security importance of 5G tech parity encourages China aggression goes nuclear. Prime 21 China ability enforce capabilities operating with respect to retaliate and if you have difficult flight for higher leadership to low. Performing our MRIVs focus on winning local wars and will play dominant role concerning Taiwan ECS enforce when PLE takes up global all sites proceed to suspending the sites with does not enforce emphasize the city initiative early fire predictability PLE is tax against SAS. Logistics for President, yes, CNC and EW, Washington, way attacking China, kind of a two nature. Need to know stronger use to lose it. Pressure exacerbated, lack of fog, more degrading for environment, speed, escalated, nuclear. Last stage effort, elections, traction, really informed guidance, companies, Chinese home stretches from institutions, ties, looking to decision making force of play critical D8 is overture deterrence, multi-force play significant role in managing and deterring conflict, escalation, nuclear, but deterrence is the only factor of deterrence war. Harris 24, politically shifted, China invasion like no because deterrence crisis, on without invasion, of deterrence weak, crisis escalates war, deterrence gap flows, PLE increase lack of pressure, self-deterrence weakened, incentive for deterring over the one China becomes avoid beating action reaction cycles. Incentives Maltese for revolution, CCP resisting connectivity, performance, erosions, first, and no time for pressure, slow down, turn spending, time running out, Africa controls, great pressures to act, Beijing out to set economic independence, restricting exports and also still culture, China for the cost of suffering war, DAF solves, body 20 results under compensation after transit, effects mitigated by enhancing damages for bonus, have expected injunctive adjustment, is actionable by the one, follows the price maintain deterrence with equitable, 32 for compensatory damages, no such economic obligation under deterrence, especially with disruptive startup and independent investors, transfer wealth and generating innovation to systemic counters, rejecting being patent not feasible, tendency presumption favoring injunctive legal which require overturning evaded deterrence, and require restore and requiring damages more damage to courses, selecting most high percent factors voting use, lead to missions, capacity, investigating ability, skills, negotiating large grant and litigators. The United States federal government should enhance remedies for infringement of standard essential patents. Ooh.
Okay, good for cross?
Yeah.
Okay, you read the old plain text, is that what we're going with? You
no,
said
enhanced remedies for infringement of standards.
Yeah, and then Brandon changed the plain text.
Oh, I put the wrong one in the redoc. Yeah, sure, whatever.
Okay, so I don't think it matters. Okay,
yeah.
The first advantage, you said that the eBay precedent will stand. What effect do you think Trump trying to restore injunctive relief will have in that case?
McIntosh evidence says that.
Well, yes, it says he'll try to restore injunctive relief. Then the rest of your cards say that the eBay precedent will, quote, deny injunctions, or continue to deny injunctions. Then the Landau card is about literally bringing back injunctions. So I'm confused. You've said that it's impossible to do that, but then read a scenario about injunctions being back.
If an attempt somehow succeeds, we have already disadvantage to it.
But how will it succeed? Like, you read two cards saying that it can't happen because of the eBay precedent.
Yeah, the DOJ policy specifically does not over SCPs and essential patents, but if Trump tries to overturn eBay, that would be bad.
So the internal link is about standard essential patents.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
This one also says
I understand. Yeah. The injunctions kill innovation card, where do you think it even gets close to a warrant for that? It's just about why injunctions might be bad for a couple firms.
Injunctions disrupt fair competition, hinder entry, lead to overpayments, stifle innovation and growth.
Okay, what is the warrant for why that prevents open innovation?
Open innovation is just the idea that a few monopolies should not control all of the patents in the United States. The absolute is through two ways.
Wait, I don't think the Callahan card is that specific. It's about, everyone being able to collaborate and come together. I don't think that patents enable that. Sorry?
Patents obviously enable it. like, as it is in the status quo, there are patent trolls that stifle new entry and stifle new competition, then it is definitely
yes, but
monopolies.
patents are a legal barrier to true open innovation. Like, I agree the app is probably a step towards open innovation because it gets rid of patent trolls.
Let me explain how the app solves in 2 ways. First is that giving these patents in and of themselves is enough because it sets, that allows new startups to enter into this. Even if there are legal barriers for those startups themselves, they are collaborating. These are new entrants that block out existing monopolies. Second is that standard essential patents operate differently for innovation because the way they innovate is not by merely
your impact card is not specific to SEPs. But let's move on to advantage. Let's move on to advantage 2. The Barnett card is just about like deterrence. Why are the plans damages key instead of something like restoring injunctions?
Well, restoring injunctions is bad. That was advantage 1. It also
you have 2 cards saying restoring injunctions are bad. Is there any other reason that would be a bad idea?
That's restoring injunctions.
Like is the second advantage just about deterrence of infringement?
Yeah.
Okay, so actually that's fine.
You can read that counterclaim. We have answers to it.
I figured.
All right. Can we borrow your stands?
No, we have
What we have first? Okay. Sound. Yes, 7 off, advantage 1, advantage 2. Alright.
Wait, did you say 7?
Yes.
Just got it from the second.
Yeah.
Sure. You just do that.
My computer always takes 10 years to scan for viruses.
Oh, yeah. We do have to one.
I have that.
I'm good.
Okay.
One other.
What's that? It's all good now?
Yep.
Everyone else good? The Supreme Court of the United States should overturn eBay v. Merck Exchange. It solves guaranteed effective deterrence against infringement. Yonker 23. In the U.S., ability to secure an injunction never been adopted until eBay. If the infringer is adjudicated to be an infringer, then you are entitled to injunction, signature element of property. Next off is topicality. IPR protection or statutory. Procedural 21. Distinct elements of IPR protection and enforcement. Protection refers to statutes of a country's legislative framework subject to interpretation and judiciary and enforcement application at the discretion of enforcement agents. Violation or not Congress. Footnote 1 limits. They split the topic to mining legal precedents, creating an impossible research burden. 2 ground. Court action leads court DAs like politics. If they don't meet its presumption, their solvency advocate says courts lack the administrative capacity to do the plan, and it can only be done legislatively. 1 is the Barnett 23 legislative fixed solution under competition over the difference of proposal largely, but it to increase judicial willingness to apply damages multiplier meaningful implementation of a proposal could not rely on court discussion under existing case law. We encourage Congress to consider making this adjustment. Next off, the liability pick. The United States federal government should enhance remedies for infringement of standard essential patents by adopting a negligence rule that excludes protection in instances of innocent infringement. Plans expenses incentivizes moral hazard and PAEs that skyrockets patent accidents and toll litigation. Levoc 21. Tort theory project for of piloting real danger of strict liability because non-limited economic incentive to prevent accidents or lawsuits by patent assertion entities under directed and inadvertent infringers not undertake measures to avoid infringement. The outcome is suboptimal because of our fixation on strict liability and property rules. We have too much unintentional infringement. We have too many patent accidents. Situations dire. The above result holds towards damages compensate for actual hardship liability. Compensate victims better off because the accident have incentives for induced accidents. Even if damages were tied in actual injury, we would have too many accidents. Patent law. Sometimes concede every warrant for right trolls are bad. Advantage 1. Only the counterplan solves. Gold 20. Proposal for use of patent trolls non-pressing entities grant inadvertent infringer tool again. Shut down small businesses who accidentally infringe a patent negligence defense provide a powerful tool in fighting patent control behavior responds by adopting a negligence rule causing economic harm in the patentee society tolerate some accidents because it is better for society as a whole. Next off the clog, this time tort forms declining, demonstrating stability. Labyrinth 22, when you mix damages corporation denial and the jury, the result might be a colossal verdict, and the other one that may phrase even more apparent wording tort reform several states law for unlimited non-economic damages as agents have more to come. Patent litigation is controlled now, strengthened rights, causes a surge of suits. Lando, without 19, we're back to white in terms of lawsuits have reinstituted stronger patents and change eBay, we would see significant increase in patent litigation. The rates have been fluctuating between 2 and 3, but then compared this historically, the 19th century rates were 5 times as, but we're not in litigation exposed, and stronger patents would lead to a great run-up in litigation, such as we're qualitatively what litigation means, recharging a business model for having the private, everyday money go by patents and insurance company. In fact, it's huge distraction at all levels. Fear of tort clogging frivolous suits drives devastating reform. Link alone turns case, backlash, guts, or deterrent effect, covers takes movements, exchanges, including liability, collateral, social punitive damages, non-economic damages, liability law, law, and procedural evidence law. One aspect to this regulation through litigation, given the term goal toward loss topic regulation, would be revolutionary, abandonment, rhetorical phrases, try to an ideal situation to use resources of which publicity campaigns and legislative change for reform such frivolous litigation. It has a powerful impact on public opinion because Americans believe too many frivolous suits called courts. HRA claims it successfully translates that information into reform, but reform consists solely of approvals to reduce compensation and tax open a broader pattern of criticizing courts. On-track corporate power, risk extinction, Lent 22, demanding on faces tax extension that corporations and liberal adherence become more powerful than any government needs to policies compete against taxation, regulation, weaker protection. It is to monetize human activity and what's left of nature. Directly allows the first finger to our future for humanity, realizes predicted profit that was on-track running through the EC in place where it's stabilizing, even if the crime gets prices broadly control and travel growth will bring further extension that's for living forest animals, insect-based trash water. Top with devastating consequence, legal and structural changes can begin to rely on the value system must begin with a clear recognition that corporations currently allowed to health care before it's too late. Next off is vagueness. The plan text doesn't specify which remedies are enhanced for the plan or how they're enacted. That's a voter for vagueness, allows them to read the resolution as a plan text and re-clarifying the 2AC, moving pre-round cap. It also waters down solvency because logical policymaker wouldn't be able to interpret it. Enhancing remedies can mean increasing injunctions or just clarifying the standards for damages, neither of which would solve the act. That should also lower your threshold for dissettlings and counterplan solvency. They don't get hyper-specific link terms or deficits because vagueness means the plan isn't properly interpreted. Next off of the politics is that raising the debt ceiling should pass, but Johnson has no political wiggle room to offset the party. Nicholson 116, Green Caucus wants a 4 trillion hike in the debt limit, and default will trigger catastrophic consequences. We're also going to reach 218 votes while uniting the Congress because in the media win, Johnson can afford losing only 1 vote. The plan causes infighting, lobbying, and special interest. 13. A national passion says using legislative oversight and practical political capital required them to vote to enact legislation not realistic to believe political. Looking to also myriad issues, patent reform like to take precedence to statutory enactment, opportunity for NC and special interest. For instance, Johnson relying on the Treasury and extraordinary measures to reach a deal on the debt ceiling, failure to reach a deal, collapse of the stock market, and global economy. Libya 1-2. U.S. is about to wait for potential default on obligation. U.S. is expected to reach limit until January 23rd. It will then be necessary for extraordinary measures. Treasury would have to evaluate bills of things including Social Security, default, worldly, the economy, and markets won't be easy to address the debt ceiling. Johnson wouldn't be able to form the inspection among conservative lawmakers. Default crashes the global economy and trips the turns. Great power war. Caro 23. Default beyond the economy affect military ops defense of the economy, lead to instability, spread militarism, World War trigger deep recession and far-reaching impacts, isolating confidence and Steve bonds for the backbone of the financial system. Default way undermined. Trusting in the global shock, affecting these budget and ability to counter instability, destabilizing region, escalating common time to take advantage. Cyber and space, the infrastructure, vulnerable, DIB, next off the multi counterplan, the United States federal government rose in agreement requiring the WTO, the centrally championed institute, settlement protection of international intellectual property rights by enhancing remedies for infringement on standard essential patents. The United States federal government should comply with the agreement, including prohibiting the United States federal government from significantly strengthening its protection of domestic intellectual property rights and the ground that violates maximum standards on your trip. The CP provides multilateral IP protection by delegating authority to the WTO. This secure resolve trade disputes and tech diffusion. U11 IP protection outside the WTO and by the international trading system, multilateral central bank of tens of multi-line may lead to strike down the U.S. war to overturn the actual IP system by the insistence that will take any measure from international protection be true to take IP and so count to reduce global significant shift until the considerable compromise between involved and less involved to cost. Undermining is not to be ignored less involved coalitions shaping, negotiating, and health IP and trade to establish IP coalition for development, ability to get out there alone and undermine the multilateral proliferation of FTA's IP protection in the U.S. that continue with human policies troubling to trading partners and incredible multilateral trade rivalries cause extinction. Armstrong 23, great power rivalry undermining security multilateral has brought back rivalries and checked the retreating U.S. leadership and multilateral trading threatens the global order. Multilateral with the WTO at its core shift to Washington de-escalation tips and most mitigate risks and broadens the option. WTO preservation is going to be a priority for global interest. Rules have not been enforceable because U.S. veto of dispute settlement and settlement treatment and certain insurance states U.S. black orders under that now require war, require global co-op, essential climate change, require tech, progress and exchange. Case, advantage one. Framing issue, the entire advantage is based on multiple unrelated hypotheticals. It's bordering on zero risk and Peninsula is bordering on ethics. 1, Trump next move. There's a reason why Peninsula can only cut 1 paragraph at the end of this card. It's a conjecture about Gary Slater and the cycle of PTO directors and determines that it's impossible to predict anything. It also never says anyone's planning to restore injunctive relief. When you see Backnotch 25, 1 minute that Mr. Trump said somebody for director will tell me more program better than if they can speculative also possible next retro. USPTO will deviate from cycle essentially the USPTO in a different direction for now. The USPTO will likely continue without any drastic changes. It is possible Mr. Trump to take renew. Assistant Attorney General for the interest of Gary Slater will bring back Madison approach. It is impossible to predict exactly how IP policy will evolve in the U.S. during Mr. Trump's next term as president. 2, the actual internal link. Lander was referring to a 2024 law that didn't pass. It read 0 cards that will pass or is even remotely similar to Trump's agenda. When you see Landau 24, the Restore Act, included in July by Senators Chris, including Tom Cotton, and substitution no one's asking for. It's gotten nowhere because of lobbying. Adventures not just 1024 Restore Act. I've become quite cynical of patent bills after coming to the law, given this one the same law I've detected. It's been fierce lobbying. That's the truth. The rest of the advantage they've tagged Landau card to say that attempting to revive injunction is bad. in the card, is actually saying that if injunctive relief is restored, it will be bad. Everything above proves then what happened. You can see that eBay precedent will continue to deny injunction. This alone should take out the interim link because it means injunctive relief won't be restored. Innovation scenario, wrong. The need card is power tag. It says that injunctions are often unreasonable and never said anything about open innovation. They also don't solve. Patents are inherently a barrier. Their impact card never says patents or IP, but no impact. Code 20, health environment are deteriorating due to innovation, including landfills, through the waste bonding, sites landfills, rather than cherry picking the sport of innovation is always good. We understand innovation has direction and it's good and bad effects, and those are unequally distributed. Terms are complex in the selection that we doubt and innovation is not taken for granted. Policymakers neglected. Innovation has a direction usually taken for granted, and more is better. Understand downside and form better policy. Advantage 2. The 5G race is over. The cards in 2021. 6G is a thing now. And no China war. Both sides air towards de-escalation. Daily 22. What can I mean under China and US name for victory? Our commitment to both enable and modernize strategies to both issue aggression and engagement for the floor. They're not still China and US will be distracted by changes, warming, supply chain, paths and population, new technology, and polarization, devastate the US. China's using by geography and data pollution, political system weakness, convince leaders to make accommodations. And US semiconductor restrictions thump any type of tech race deterrent impact that they have because it proves that deterrence is already high in the status quo. Yep.
Is the net benefit to the first counterclaim just politics?
Yeah.
Okay, and liability is internal?
Yes.
How does that compute?
Yeah, liability, it adds a negligence rule to the plan which modifies the first part. So
Okay,
it
so-
enhances.
It adds?
Yeah, well, okay, so I can see why looking at the text, it might seem like it's plan plus. It's plan minus. Essentially, the counterplan adds a modification through a negligence rule, which allows or prevents the act from being enforced when people innocently infringe on a patent. They do it inadvertently. They don't have prior knowledge or
Okay.
intent to infringe.
The Barnett evidence says that they would lower damage. The courts would lower damages if the infringer could demonstrate it was unaware of the patent and made good faith
Lower
efforts.
damages, that doesn't mean no damages.
It would be
Some
no
people would
damages for
probably,
instance.
yeah, trolls would probably still, try to
Well, but
litigate
trolls
these
have no
cases because they
basis.
know. Yeah, they would. Are you kidding me? You just said they would get some damages in the case of the app. There's only a risk that the counterplan solves better because
Okay,
looking at
so
what I see, I don't think you have any
Patent
cards or
lawsuits which
warrant.
cost millions of dollars, and you think it's worth it to litigate when you get like 100,000
Probably to
votes
some
with lower
extent,
damages?
but the counterplan certainly solves this better.
losing
Even if
those-
the app solves it to
Okay.
an extent, the counterplan undoubtedly solves this entire scenario better.
How do you determine normal infringement?
Sorry?
How do you
Well,
determine?
yeah, it's determined by whether or not they had prior knowledge and, intent to infringe. I'm not a patent lawyer, but I think that's already, they already deal with that in other forms of law.
Okay, on the tort reform, the court clock is set. Actually, it's fine. Let's talk about the politics a second. This Nicholson evidence says the Freedom Caucus wants a $4 trillion hike in the debt limit. They're a group of 20 Republicans, and they're the only people who have said they would accept our proposal. Why should we believe them when the House is going to be 65 people? Not maybe.
What? I don't understand your question. Nicholson clearly says it can reach 218 votes.
Yeah. And why? It's like the group said in its post. Why is that true?
What?
Okay, the Freedom House Caucus claims it can get 218 votes. Why is that true? Who else? do you
Because
cite
it's
on this?
it's predictive evidence
Well,
of the ability to pick up.
We
Predictive evidence.
also,
The
we have
House
better
Freedom
cards that we'll read
Caucus.
in the block that
Okay.
says the rest of the
So as the one in
is
C, your
united.
uniqueness evidence does not constitute a complete argument. Also, where is the bill?
What?
Where's the bill?
What do you mean? Where is the bill?
It's a proposal. It's not.
Yeah,
bill.
it's a
It's not being
proposal that'll be
negotiated.
pushed through Congress soon because Trump
Soon?
knows that
What evidence says it
because
is
Trump
pushed?
knows that he has to pass the debt ceiling to get any of the rest of his agenda.
Okay, so if he has to pass the debt ceiling, why would the plan stop that from happening?
It's not-
No, it's
Because
not.
there are still fights over the debt ceiling.
There's so many fights over the
It's
plan
a
that
number
Trump
one. No, it's the
Okay.
number one priority
Let me
for
get
Trump,
this
but that
straight.
doesn't mean it's inevitable.
It's
that it
so
has to,
important
obviously.
to stop literal economic collapse in the United States, but the planned intellectual property policy would be so divisive that Trump would just forego that.
Yes, and it's not solely about Trump. It's about GOP infighting
It's
too.
also the start of his administration, so
Evidence.
doing the plan would come at a weird time.
Argue. Alright.
next round.
I saw wrong,
Oh, well, initially then they changed the schedule, and then they had to do some tweaks. It's the time change stuff.
fair enough.
What was the argument you made at the bottom of the initiative about the today?
Semiconductor restriction.
Oh, okay. No non-topicality reasons for rejecting. Saying that.
That was not hidden.
Wasn't hidden.
Privacy. No, no, it's okay.
It's not safe. It's safe. Okay. Yeah.
Private.
It was just syncing issue, so like send in one thing, send it.
How much do you say you had left?
544.
Flux in. Yeah.
ACDLC.
Sorry?
That's called.
Yeah,
Nice.
called
to ACDLC.
And you said there's two dots, right?
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm gonna get on my hotspot, because the Wi-Fi is being really, really slow.
That might have been it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, regardless, what we're doing, that the order is going to be the injunctions advantage, 5G advantage, T, Vegas, the like overturn eBay counterclaim, the liabilities type, so counterclaim, the debt ceiling is that, and the tort reform is that. Anybody else?
I need it again.
For sure. It's going to be the injunctions advantage, the 5G advantage. T, vagueness. The eBay counterplan. The liability pick. The multi-lat counterplan. The debt ceiling dissat. And the tort reform dissat. Okay?
You sent the doc 2AC case RR5,
Yeah, and then
And then there's.
Mike, did you
Yeah.
send it? I sent mine.
and
You're
then
gonna
that's
do it.
2AC.
It just.
Okay. Okay, no,
Okay,
I get it. Yes, that's good.
The order of the counterplans was eBay, liability, multi-lat?
eBay liability, yeah, that's okay.
Okay.
I need one more second.
Anyone knocking? Cool.
The return like indicts our style over substance. You should look at our card they bid, just that we're certainly make the claim that we're reading them as. We don't have to win this entirety of this advantage in order to have a massive dissent to the counterclaim because it only relies on winning that injunctions are bad, which they've dropped a ton of warrants on, and our evidence is predictive of future attempts, not specifically this one attempt or this one bill that they're reading cards on, which means that none of this applies to the advantage. They're hard about going nowhere. This doesn't matter because the question of uncertainty caused by Trump's future attempts to the DOJ, regardless, we'll concede this. That proves that the advantage counterclaim links to politics because the last attempt was dead in the water, regardless. The innovation control it's real. The injunctions are terrible for it. It causes things like hold up end keys, and it's super costly. Our evidence is explicit in their cards, and they haven't read a card on this. Their indicts are terrible, and they're selectively quoting things. Read our cards. It's far better than theirs. Their innovation impact defense. This isn't an argument. Just as the innovation can go either way, it's not a two-mark terminal link, which ensures that it goes the good way because it recaptures the innovation from links and ensures that it's truly open, that enables collaboration and risk mitigation. That ensures there's no downsides, only upsides. They've also dropped that injunctions certainly cause NPEs, that nukes the economy, which causes independent nuclear war impact to the nuclear war dissent to the counterplan. That also zeroes the counterplan solvency because the NPEs are the definition of anti-innovative. The 5G advantage, 6G now, this is unwarranted. You should literally assign this zero risk because we read a ton of cards about why 5G is the key, regardless how you always stare. I mean, 5G is the battleground long 24. Whereas 5G, however, as we use the surge 24 China, 60% of one is 50% for the lower China's unseen is global. Always the combination of risk and aggression support receives 7 million carrying matches. President has been to the penetration of 1,500 donate anticipates. Then, regardless, it doesn't matter because if we're able to standardize our SCPs, then that will also obviously apply to 6G2, which means we win that tech race as well. The deterrence high argument. This is warrantless, so you should reject it. There's no card on this. Regardless, semiconductors are not key. Dropped a ton of 1A scams, which says that it's a question of integration, and 5G is key to every other type of military technology. That means semiconductors are useless if we don't have the connectivity to use them. The loss of tech leadership causes an instant nuclear war because it causes China to seize and initiate wars of local aggression because they perceive their head T. We meet normally in this Congress. Every solvency have a pretty reason for this, which means there's no presumption argument. The vagueness thing, we meet, we're not vague. Counter, we only have to be topical. One is feeling aggressive. No threshold for what is vague. Defining all the words of the plan is able to solve their offense. Checking this cross-section solvency advocates check. Our solvency advocates are explicit. Injunctions are impossible, which they conceded, but enhanced damages are normal. Meet 3 is reasonability. It's key to avoid substance crowd out. Moyo says clean energy extinction. Client and 24. It's not the and the advantage counterplan per duo shields link part of the counterplan links in event that there's zero reason it would be less likely to cause suits and is politically unpopular as per their cards on case. The advantage counterplans are ability to kill after there's never only one way to solve a problem. Advantage one is the deficit to the play. Their advocates has to increase injunctions, not that those solve innovation, which means this isn't a complete argument. Hash will destroy 5G innovation by taking over the 5G sector. That makes the entirety of the advantage shoot is at O'Connor for control. It has no Wi-Fi, it's not magnitude, if we're producing brothers, so the goals should better. Injunctions track much more than true value. Conditionality, but issue one sphere, issue offensive checks on infinite play. Seconds, bad debates occur to same magnet. Obstruction is saying legalized double terms of play. And the liability pick. One is for the counterpart, they should have the function of adopting an negligence rules, adding the rules, plan plus because it adds an exemption. Normal means competition is terrible, it's infinitely unpredictable and snowball. Second is doing an benefit, the app solves rules, they can't get injunctions or damages. As a result of the existing rarity of the counterpart solves, it just proves that the plan increases it. Trolls need injunctions to function, those damages are too low, otherwise it's a 1AC. Good faith means damages are low, that means the deterrence and allows industry to purchase or research. Next time, R923. Sorry, use the original the words would lower damages if an infringer could demonstrate unaware of pattern, but good faith infringer would preserve incentives for good faith. 3 is part of both, there's always it seems to follow one of the rules adopted anyways. 4 is links to the benefit, passes law, politically controversial clause, courts. 5 is the counterplay cannot solve people with hide intent to infringe, which kills the deterrent effect because there's a guaranteed way to infringe that kills 5G innovation. Chinese infringers would hide their intent. Also, if they allow initiative infringers, no one would do any research about patents before because there's a way they can freely infringe. The multi-like counterplay. 1 is from do both, it's seen as follow on. 2nd is the US says no quit 20, not going to have a bill because Republicans believe Israeli study good for the system. 3 is WTO says no, U11 development behind that protection WTO, registered officers and structure the WTO talks to you with depends which are the US train the trips, those developed where country rights and difficulty line these country were very concerned about women as extra new agreements also about country period and change laws over not license enforced into force. US laws key no one will know or accept the change after codification. Uncertainty reduces SCP value, undermining reliability, destroying incentives to invest without credibility, damage sense of zero deterrent effect, restating that it's actual regulatory infringement as overnight person which is also a dissent to the pig because it's equally unfair what qualifies as an exemption. 5 is no impact, they have a launch list of work but no warrant for extinction, and the WTO is static economics. 24, WTO has been 5 years and they let the IMF top and give an agenda to the disability when I see it as growth of the SDGs and frequently recently weaponized by parties. The US thumbs it, challenging to threaten the which uses the US and Senate to impose terrorists their right to unilaterally impose sanctions. This is where WTO law 6 is permanently the counterplan, the debt ceiling dissent, the dissent is a non-starter, there is no bill. 1 is the Nicholson agency. You have groups of the House GOP leaders with the advanced proposal region. Those are representative proposal underscores the political and face of the GOP. It would be politically risky, similarly would be forwarded only wrong with those problems or wrong versus non-free with only GOP such as 05 for those suspense of the current House GOP leadership, but passage is inevitable. Washington 121, like actually become right, vote problems only rarely receive to actually occur because there's no bill. That means that it's zero risk. There's nothing to plan to actually trade off with. It hasn't even reached committee, let alone be put to the floor. That's a massive burden, which they have not what is going to occur in the first place. Regardless, that just means that the plan will pass before it feels almost late because it's immediate and unanimous. And you can do both. You can do a lot of the policymakers can do both. And link term tech lobbies fight for the plan now. 19 nations agree on different extras of the same level. Microsoft Line has a very chosen better and mass of ANAS of training competition reason. So that's the dissemination of information with the wise mass. Then I always have announced time lobbies over how to 24. Industry has become one of those lobbying forces American policy within that power to hold control and remake the nation issues of compartmentalized under 21. Never from sexual development to the transition to launches the distraction and transmission is the highway on top of the order mentioned over the winners way better than 21. If ever show the winners of the public to disagree success of all the policies, never the launch of the quarter which succeeded when it creates momentum and PC fails to winners 21 and actually skip that card and Trump will use other mechanisms to avoid debt by default. Well, 1220 there's no launch of the forms make every ridiculous absolutely horror was developing city new environment and initially this being the quarter country is truly knowledge was according to managers validated not be questioned the app certainly solves the impact through because it makes the economy far more stable as per elevated advantage 1. The tort reform dissent 1 is no link. The plan applies to retail already existing injunction cases, not that every single state case is easier to receive damages for. They still have to actually be heard. So the plan weeds out bad litigators from rents floodgates. So the plan signal is stronger than any tort reform signal would send because it's economy wide, which answers their presumption argument. Suing is hard, floodgates are fake. Patrick Martinez from floodgates have money. It's not just for all of those in terms of regardless of same even for payers and litigants for the ability to disclose reports and make it through a serious issue. Second is non-unique and no attempt. 16 reports on the guy rolling back was able to resolve civil disputes foundation of the powers and right do just between the use of specific measure for 4,209 cases average. No, it is 7.6 months to versus and laws that are federal court system 3 is linked to by 23. Then images from non-privileged by that is between the first also back to the invalid reduction one again. The consequences force is thumbed by 23. Not to else to force system relation to be over about the judge election revision that much has to have the value we can have validity. Is no have courts are not key regulation. The FTC and DOJ solve it. 6 is no impact thumbed, and obviously not all regulations would disappear as proven by the status quo. And plan shores up powers 23 China was one of the invasion modes that's on our track of the consumer rates for enemy balance versus the globe. Extinction 917. First off, there's the Mars issue of energy in every university application of religious no or no country. It's close to the place of the US revolution with international issues, financial stability, climate change, terrorism, cannabis, never seen the global agenda covers the wild possibility to direct action to the US and use of cooperation against the sovereign to develop numbers and as I said, not the power against positive sum. And that's it was regardless. I guess advantage 2. Texas Remedy prevents existential nuclear U.S. war. Their defense is wrong. What is desperation? China's economy, trade pressure, and competition bypass defensive motivation. Second is unique. This evidence is most recent, so the deterrence is failing now, which is our Paris evidence. Add-ons or defense to Cloak. The open innovation stuff link turns it because it removes power from the corporate elites and gives it back to the common people, which means that it's not. Yes. I guess we're Unsustainability, that's what I said. Unsustainability is a fallacy. Value daily. 20 world economies run over 100% debt of poverty. Basic production rate is not just like unpaid population, which is over 5 million, comes up from close to value, new and fresh price increasing. Plus, about such regulation, new to positive efficient use, since like the might get one of single renewable restriction more about the relative to expand organization pricing, because economic freedom is wrong more than half the aim, and such general flourish and a lot of economy, agricultural productivity, the goods, the global less conscious world, where nutrition stimulates production. Daily product production.
Good.
Yep.
Reasons to reject.
Conditionality, economic counterplans. I think that's it.
Okay. open innovation, the code card ignites like the idea that we could ever predict the trajectory of an innovation in the first place. How do you know that your innovation would be good?
It presumes the status quo. Our Calipan evidence indicates that we can ensure only the upsides of technology are produced if we essentially take power away from elites and put it into the hands of everyone. That enables more collaboration, which allows other people to check any downside risks that might
How
occur in a
could
given
people
innovation.
foresee long-term downside risks?
Because
through
even if you
cooperation?
can't foresee it, the others you're collaborating with can. It creates several layers of safeguards to that innovation.
I don't
and ensure
understand
that-
why that's true though. Like, why would other people
This is
know?
the principle of peer review in scientific literature, right? It's a similar idea for the purposes of technological innovation, right?
So peer
The
reviewers
more
are able
people,
to like.
the more people who are looking on something, it becomes exponentially more likely that they will catch any issue.
Okay, whatever. The like Trump uncertainty thing on the liability pick. Could you explain what that was?
On case.
Or on case?
Yeah, the argument we're making is that Trump's DOJ is clearly intending to do this. That means that they perceive
Okay, what,
kind of
like
uncertainty.
internal to your impact is about uncertainty. All of your cards are about restoring injunctions being bad.
The belief that they could be affects how people behave economically.
Read me a
If
line
they-
that substantiates that, I dare you.
All of our innovation impacts, our
No,
economic
no,
impacts, are about the
just stated-
behavior,
Read me a line.
about
All the line
uncertainty.
stated.
Sure, I read an uncertainty deficit. It's on the multi-life.
You've got an uncertainty deficit, you haven't read an impact of that deficit. So that's
The
fine.
impact is that it doesn't solve the app. I'm confused.
I don't think that's true.
I think it is.
No, it's
Yeah.
okay, Evan has more.
Whatever. Yeah, you say like people would like infringe in China or whatever. How would the plan be able to check extraterritorial like infringement if it's only domestic?
The plan is domestic, but so is the right. That means that they're able to check any kind of market presence in the United States, which is the largest global market. The disincentive of having an economic penalty in your largest market is probably sufficient to deter them.
Okay, you say China's desperate, like at the end of your speech. So if China's desperate and will kind of do whatever it takes, why does that mean that the one factor of 5G somehow deters them from like
Are
expanding?
you asking why 5G is key to deterrence or why deterrence solves?
I'm kind of asking if China is desperate, why would shoring up one small tech factor?
Well, the argument we've made is that China is desperate for a litany of reasons, and deterrence is the only one that can prevent them from going for war for all of them. We think 5G is necessary for that deterrence because we've read a couple of cards which indicate that 5G is kind of necessary for every aspect of our military power projection, right?
Okay,
It says
so
that-
like are
China's
companies
desperate but not suicidal.
Yeah, exactly.
are companies innovating like new 5G tech?
Yeah, there's improvements in 5G.
Why are those improvements necessarily key to like military parity or whatever?
Because retaining our tech leadership is necessary, and that requires us to constantly improve our technology, integrating
Why?
with
What-
new non-5G
No,
technology.
what about the new 5G is uniquely
It
like
improves
necessary?
military AI,
It improves
robotics.
every other aspect of military.
Prep 10 starting now.
Will the only add-on soft power include tech?
Yes.
Okay. Did you send out the new cards?
Yeah.
Does that file include the WTO cards?
WTO. I think those are at the bottom of multi-hub now. These cards.
Yeah.
Weird.
Like economist and channel.
Mm-hmm.
They should be done. It's right under no impact. I could resend it.
Yeah, or is that? It might not have saved.
Yeah, I
think
don't
it
think it's
didn't
saved.
save.
I don't think it's in
Yeah,
either,
it should.
or the new one. I just downloaded the new one, so that's what I was checking.
Oh yeah, the original version I have.
Yeah.
I sent the updated
Sorry,
one.
a bunch of syncing issues.
just like by the end of the tournament, if you can? Are you judging the next 2 rounds?
No.
Okay, so
I just have to go home right after this, so it's easier if I could write out the or the later.
Yeah, okay, so they just want your decision as soon as possible.
Stop at 2:32. I'm sorry. Okay. It's the eBay counterclaim / advantage counterclaim, the liability pay, tort clause, injunctions advantage, 5G advantage. So we need that again. eBay / advantage counterclaim, liability pick, injunctions advantage, or tort clause, injunctions advantage, 5G advantage.
Injunctions by G.
Uh-huh.
We have the document.
Okay.
Does everyone have it? The counterclaim solves. It overturns the eBay v. Merck exchange, which is the largest barrier to injunctive relief in this globe. That's the Iancu evidence from the 1XC. It solves all of Advantage 2 because the premise of it is just eBay bad, and it solves Advantage 1 by reinstating injunctions as a credible deterrent to infringement, which prevents things like patent control's default to sufficiency, weighing the risk of a deficit versus the risk of the net benefit. Judge take the counterclaim if we lose office. It's a logical extension of condo. Proof to go links to net benefit. It requires Congress to change injunctive relief. It definitely does not shield because it still goes through Congress, which forces it to be negotiated, which links to that will be read in the 1NR. They say permit the counterclaim, it severs. AFCON is a voter because its skews next strategy makes the 2 unpredictable. The function is different because we restore injunctions by overturning eBay. We do not increase damages, which is what the plan does. They also conceded leave me on T Congress, which means they also sever the actor. They say links to that benefit. It obviously doesn't. It doesn't go through Congress. They need to recontextualize this for it to be actual with an actual warrant. The advantage counterclaim's bad stuff is obviously done. Counterterp, we get one blank advantage counterclaims. It's key to net ground on an at-bias topic. There's no unifying ground, which means anything you can give us is necessary. It's also arbitrary. There's no bright line for what constitutes an advantage counterclaim. This is proven because this is a one-blank advantage counterclaim based on a core 1AC controversy, since almost all of their cards are about the eBay precedent. This proves their interpretation ends up limiting out every counterclaim because there's no effective bright line. The next argument was that advantage 1 is a deficit. This is wrong. Open innovation is a deficit to the counterclaim because it's about injunctions. I'll just answer that on case, but it definitely solves the part about patent trolls. The patent trolls card, the Landau evidence from the 1AC just says that if Congress tried to install injunctive relief, that would be bad. Then it goes on to say that if courts are the ones making those decisions, they'll make them effectively, which means that changing the eBay precedent solves because they're allowed to make those decisions autonomously and assign damages effectively. All the other stuff was just an extension of that deficit, which I answered above. But con is good. We get what we did. Flex. Con is key to lack of testing the app from multiple angles. Apps have a natural incentive to stand back their best offense until the 2AC exacerbated by lack of offense against three topic areas that require strategies based on QEC undercoverage, true logic, or reason the counterclaim is bad, isn't a reason the claim is good. Punishment should fit the crime, mean the counterclaim disparate, we lose theory. 3, arbitrariness, the only argumentative limit should be the resolution. Anything else snowballs into no neg fiat. And 4, innovation, 2, are risk averse, condo incentivize new options which turns their offense. 5, skews inevitable, T, disad speed, highlighting in case. 6, diminishing marginal utility, adding more axes, peaks in value until becoming a strategic liability. Just but fails, it doesn't solve our offense because it's on condo and the neg can't read mutually exclusive counterclaims. 2, it doesn't solve their offense process counterclaims and claims force terms, and if the straight turn is the best answer, the degree will always read it. Liability. The counterclaim solves. It adopts the negligence rule to protect the standard essential patents in all instances except innocent infringement, which is when an entity accidentally makes, uses, or sells an invention that's patented. That avoids patent trolling, which outweighs. They call patent trolls cause a stock market collapse and slow growth, causing escalatory nuclear war. That's 1AC Moyo. We also solved the add-on about clean energy, so I don't know why they read this. Environmental collapse causes extinction. That's our scenario now. We have the most approximate internal link. Their evidence is about patent trolls broadly, not injunctions or damages specifically. So exempting remedies in the case of innocent infringement solves the impact. Cross-apply sufficiency and judge kick. Any reason a net benefit has to outweigh because the 1AC has no innocent infringement bad scenario. In fact, it explicitly agrees that patent trolls pursuing that type of litigation is bad. Permanently counterclaim severs. That's a voter for Condo just by changing their advocacy as late as the 2 year and skirts all net generics. Our competition argument is simple. The plan must legally exclude all infringement upon an entity's invention. Anything short of that means the plan does not strengthen, quote, patents, even if it may strengthen IPR. Patents create exclusive rights to invention. That excludes others from making, using, or selling the invention without express permission. NIHF 19. Patent gives an inventor exclusive rights. Once you patent an invention, no one else can make, use, or sell what you created without your permission. Those must be legally enforceable. IPR 18. Patent grants a legal enforceable right to exclude others from practicing the invention. That means any infringement upon a patent is barred and imposes strict liability, even if unintentional. Invention about 17. The patent creates a right to exclude others from making, selling, or using the patent invention and performing anything so that permission is direct infringement creates liability, even if the inventor did not intend to commit infringement. To operate a basic precepts by the conceptually of patent law, these match strict liability. This has been unequivocally true since the 19th century. Gold 20. American patent law holds all infringers strictly liable. Of course, this liability regardless of whether infringement was intentional, negligent, or innocent, and is black letter law. MacLeod 18. Black letter law patent infringement simply infringement is strict liability. Offenses an entire doctrine and is not an element of infringement. Black letter law is the centerpiece. The counterclaim cannot be the aft. That counterclaim says innocent infringement over the plan's IPR does not bestow liability and can be legally excluded. Our definitions of patents proves that all infringement over under the scope of the plan must be legally excluded. It's obviously not plain plus. It adds an exception, which is certainly plain minus. This is like saying this is like if the 1NC reads a pick out of patents against an app that deals with the whole resolution, i.e. patents, copyrights, and trademarks. Under this interpretation, that would be plain plus because it adds an exception that makes the plan not apply to patents, which is obviously illogical. Normal means competition is good. It's key to ensure that our prep is grounded in the literature base, which is the most predictable standard for prep. They say no net benefit. This is wrong. The app does not solve trolls as much as the counterclaim does. They can still get some damages in the status quo, which cross-checks. The permanency of the counterclaim itself also disproves it because it means that patent trolls can still litigate and attack people who accidentally infringe. Even if there's not a big difference between the app and the counterclaim, in terms of how much we solve the net benefit, the counterclaim certainly solves better. Presumption cannot flip app unless the net benefit is literally zero risk. The China deficit is wrong. They do not solve it. Patents are territorial, which means you can't pursue litigation against someone who infringes upon your patent in a different country. That's just how patent law works. There's also no impact to it. The stuff about research and hiding intent is obviously not how this works. Infringers would have to do research to know there is a patent to infringe on in the first place, which means they can't just randomly infringe on an invention and simultaneously know that it's important and patented, and then also not have any record of them researching it because innocent infringement requires them to means that they don't have any knowledge that the invention was patented in the first place or that they didn't have an intent to infringe on it. So tort law. Conceded floodgates are fake, no impact to the disad. Soft power solves nothing. Minority goal in 20. Irrelevance to soft power central. A change global landscape that nations will create. Strategic alliances will are some shared interest. Soft power becomes secondary and power will emanate. Grow status as desirable member and alliances will in the midst of structural change to strangle. Response to investment in defense and consumerism. Trump also thumps it because allies hate us. That's, yeah, instruction there. There's zero internal link to the advantage. One, Trump. This advantage relies on them winning his administration will have a meaningful effect on patent law. That's simply not true. Peninsula has omitted the rest of the Macintosh card, which says that the entire internal link is speculation and that PTO policy can never be predicted. The card never explains how or why injunctive relief would be restored. Think about it logically. The eBay precedent has stood for years. Past PTO directors have abided by it since when it was decided, which was 2006. The likelihood of this being the year it changes is super, super low. All the stuff they said about uncertainty due to Trump is spin. They have none of their internal links are about uncertainty due to the Trump administration. They're all about Congress trying or actually getting to the point where they can restore injunctive relief. That is certainly not about standard essential patents and the uncertainty in that field. So this is zero. It also the injunctive relief internal link is also zero. The card saying the card that they think says attempting to restore is bad is about the Restore Act, which will never get through Congress because of lobbying against patent legislation. That just proves the internal link because it means it's not about Trump. It proves that any changes to injunctive relief are both unpopular and unlikely. They also don't solve open innovation. Their cards don't say patents or IP, and when I see mentions innovation one time in passing. That's certainly not enough to get them to the Callahan Impact card, which is about unequivocally collaborating with other parties to innovate and solve the world's problems. That's obviously not coming as a result of patents because they're inherently a legal barrier to innovation. There's no impact either way. The authors cherry-pick data to say that it's always good, which is wrong. There are both upsides and downsides, which means it neither causes nor solves existential risk. All they said was that harmonization solves. This isn't how it works. The code card is about physical scientific developments and how we can't predict the effect that those will have, regardless of whether or not we're working with other countries. I'm good for class.
I guess let's go to the liability. How do you determine what infringement is innocent?
What infringement is innocent? If a party that infringed on a patent had prior knowledge that the invention was patented and had an intent to infringe when they committed infringement,
Yeah, my question is how you determine the intent to infringe.
I'm not a patent lawyer, but this exists in other areas of law. Like there are standards for like how you determine whether or not someone had an intent to infringe. Like you go through documents, you go through like all my legal knowledge comes from suits, so I probably can't help you here, but it shouldn't be that hard to determine. Also, our cards, like, they do say that this is a legal distinction that exists, so I do not think it would be that hard.
Is there a remedy if the party who infringed just denies it? Like they say, we didn't do this, there's no
That's
there's
not
no
like,
documents.
how do you
proving
think
it
court
happened.
works? Like, people just go and lie and then judges
Yeah,
are
but
like, okay,
typically,
yeah, that's
but
fine.
typically law isn't purely dependent on intent, right? It's not you
Yes, but
receive
innocent
zero
infringement
penalty
is-
if you didn't mean to do this.
Yeah.
Generally, there's a punishment whether or not you meant to. Murder
Yeah,
is
and
bad.
the
even
counterclaim
if it
gets rid
wasn't.
of that because we've said that that standard in the context of patents is bad because it incentivizes patent
Is there a
trolls.
standard for this in any other context?
I don't know, but I don't think that's relevant.
Well, okay, sure.
Like,
I guess.
we've read this against a patents act.
Okay.
All that matters
yeah,
is
so
patent law.
Okay, so perm to the counterclaim. I guess so. To be clear, the competition argument is that because patents grant strict liability
Yes.
and exclusive rights, that means that strengthening patents must
That
be
means that
strict
exempting-
liability in all patents. I'm confused.
No, not necessarily all patents, but it means that patent protections require applying the strict liability standard. So the exemption for innocent infringement is not topical because patents fundamentally like have a strict liability
Okay.
standard.
Why couldn't the plan strengthen it in? Why couldn't the plan strengthen with strict liability in some patents, but with the exception
Because,
of others?
well, you didn't make that prone to 2AC.
Well, that's
so I'm not
perm to the
answering your
counterclaim.
question.
It would be.
No, that is
a
not
part-
perm to the counterplan. Are you kidding me?
Because
Perm
it's-
do the plan in some
because
or
that
do the
proves it's
plan and do the
perm
counterplan in some
I'm confused.
instances.
I'm confused.
Does that
Wait.
sound like perm to the
Wait,
counterplan?
no, I'm confused. If the plan were to increase some patents strictly liable, as per your ethics.
Standard essential patents, which is also what the counterplan deals with.
Wait,
The-
wait, wait,
both
wait.
the
But
app and the
the counterplan adopts a negligence rule that applies patent-wide.
No,
It says
no.
by
No.
adopting a rule.
Yes, adopting a rule, and then before that it says standard essential patents.
It does the plan by adopting the rule, and it just says patents.
Yes,
I'm
so
confused
it
why that would
offers
only apply
it
to
offers like remedies for infringement, but the exemption is of course when innocent infringement
Okay.
happens. The remedies are not paid out.
Then
And
to be
that is
clear,
our
your-
severance
Then
argument
to be
because the app
clear,
would have
your
to pay out
argument is that
damages
patent
and
trolls
rates.
still exist everywhere except everywhere except SEPs plus patent.
Yeah, that's the 1AC internal link, and you also didn't answer this in the 2AC, so I don't think the 1ARCUS.
Well, yeah, I'm asking about your solvency claim. So
Yes,
yeah, it's
well,
only
we
about
sold
SEP
we
trolls.
sold patent trolls
It's
in
only about
SEPs.
SEP trolls.
Yes,
Only
because
about
that is what the 1AC internal link was.
Okay,
If
sure.
they say
And then
anything
the
about this,
eBay-
like, you should ignore it.
eBay. Okay.
Sending it out. Should be sending right now, but it's taking a second to like load on the email. So.
This is WTODA. WTODA.
Yeah. I'm gonna try to put it in here. Oh, I'm just gonna. Sorry, I'm on my hotspot and I got disconnected. Okay, looks like it should be working if I try again. Alright, yeah, there we go. Yeah, it's counterplan design. WTO counterplan design. Okay, everyone good?
Yeah.
Nope.
No, okay.
Still.
You don't have it either.
No.
Let me make sure it got sent. I believe so.
Wrong thing, maybe?
Maybe, or,
Wait, actually, it might.
I'm gonna refresh.
Or did you only hit
Let me check.
reply and not reply all?
Never mind.
Potentially. Oh, here we go. I needed a refresh. Okay. There we go. Now it says sending.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Okay, just got it. Yeah. Download it. That's good.
Okay.
Good.
Everyone, cool?
Debt ceiling outweighs and cascades across the government, destroying the military and alliances that invites adversarial probing, which goes nuclear drop, or impacts isn't just economic climate, it's the default imperiling defense, which is a separate interlinked exhalation. So, no new answers. It turns case, decline is far worse for deterrence. What would China care about more? A complete collapse in the US warfighting powers, or a decline in one tiny tech sector of 5G? Obviously, the defense one, which means that we turn advantage 2 more than the app. It also kills innovation on advantage 1, because if the econ collapses, there's no way for companies to get the capital to innovate in the first place. Now, uniqueness, debt ceiling gets narrowly raised. Student caucus has enough votes now to clear the House hurdle, but it's contingent on union goodwill. It's the #1 priority for hardliners because it achieves the goal of fiscal responsibility. That's Tickleton. Freedom Caucus are the people who disagree in the first place. If the piece obviously would pass, Republican says nothing. Even if the plan is contentious, it passes through. And Trump is being pragmatic, realizes he must compromise to maintain GOP unity over the debt ceiling. Cornfield and Spizak 11-122. Trump said that when Thompson threw for the first discussion, Republicans lifted that ceiling. Caucus being passage. Difficult way to talk about the importance of unity. Trump can understand Republicans are divided on policy issues. Not a pragmatic leadership. He's got Johnson's back and is holding off hardliner backlash, but solve the re-highlighting. Bitten down 121. Trump emphasized need to Republicans that stick together, no grants that you just stick together and deliver. Trump was agnostic on how it that till got done as long as it got done. He's leaving this after the leader in the speaker. Trump's last word, technical physical battles, help Johnson modifies hardline machine, device in Congress and satisfy growing certainties losing press time to get debt ceiling is TOA. Trump used it as a prereq to his legal agenda. Cameron 122. The resident obviously very concerned about past Republican leadership has come to the debt limit to his presidency. There was something really important that we have the debt limit is firing. We need to work on this now. He wanted to make the point that he needed to cover to do his policies. Right now they're still negotiating the debt limits, but we want to get this agenda done. But we don't need an actual bill. Obviously something is going to be put forward soon. It's only a question of whether the votes can be mustered, and the plan can still trade off by empowering fights prior to the bill being introduced. Passage never was wrong. Johnson's political tightrope cannot afford to lose one vote. Miller 116. Hardline caucus pitch and deliver wins it. Higher tackling debt ceiling of $4 million increase enough to render debt default for 2 years. Johnson's walking on a tightrope to get how Republicans are cool as they can't afford to lose any supporting reconciliation. Winning over the caucus is crucial to his agenda. Johnson lets mandates must satisfy budget hawks and maintain the legislative agenda. Lynn Schnell 111. Johnson is scrambling to find the balance that satisfies all camps. Challenge made down by the hairline majority, which allows for no defections. The Democrats are expected to oppose the effort despite possible weakness. Students have evidence this year might be different. As hardline conservatives warned already to hold Johnson's feet to the fire. GOP blame is irrelevant because they control the House and the Senate, but hardliners hate Johnson. They're willing to pull the pin. Kearney 1-3. Johnson managed to avoid the drawing up our battle for the speakership. The aftermath of the victory made it clear conservatives see this as tended to truth. Hardliners, the vexation signal forcing over to Hodgson. It's on the table of speakership after this reality checking. You certainly only afford to use one. GOP vote here last and move on satisfaction. Risk of severe backlash. Chris already drawn lines. Understand members will be willing to pull the pin on the grenade. And other mechanisms wrong. Trump repeals the debt ceiling is wrong. The card just says he wants to do it, not that it will happen. It's all speculative, so this holds zero weight. But the GOP hates it too. We see, well, 1220 Republican lawmakers aren't endorsing Trump's agreement on the debt ceiling should be abolished. You can bet they will be used as part of default in the future when there's a Democratic president. It's $1 trillion coin, not going to happen, but if it does, it spikes inflation. Extinction as per the 1MC evidence. Now, link, plan indicts Republican infighting. There's a narrow deal to raise the debt ceiling in exchange for debt consolidation, but the margin is razor thin. The plan injects itself at the worst time. Trump on the side of the legislation down the throats of the Freedom Caucus. That derails Republican unity and folks making a deal impossible. Avoiding must-pass legislation is key. Brooks 120. The parties were being used and the president's not more. The hard work is getting on 218 members of Congress. We're going to tell the hawks to be difficult. Trump means angry about the debt limit and only came up during his first term is not one Democrats use must-pass legislation. It's a leverage point to expect concession. Drop the link proper. All patent legislation invites tons of fights. It's really politically contentious and too complicated during the first 100 days. That's to bring evidence. Intrinsic this test wrong. The link proves it's intrinsic. Reject this. Kills all ground because NEDA can be compensated. Politics is core and timely education. Fiat normal means the top of the docket, not instant. Bypassing real world processes is uneducational and ruins ground for backlash. Page just which are keep ground. No compartmentalization. The plan burns bridges with key legislators. IP's unpopular fodder for criticism that spill over cross issues, especially in Trump's first 2 weeks in office. Pence Senator Johnson's attempt to disregard clear mandates outlined by the Freedom Caucus. Shocks like the plan are stiffly disastrous for his credibility and ability to unite the party. No winners win. Frame the issue. Our DA isn't about PC. Even if you win, the Trump gains more political power over Congress. It doesn't translate to inter-party negotiations between Johnson and the Freedom Caucus. And controversies collapse the Trump agenda before it can get started. Listen, show one. Actually, I already read that card, so cross-by from earlier. PC fake, never had the card, but cross-by compartmentalization. Winners win. Answers. Lobbies is our argument. Link outweighs the link turn. First 100 days means there's no time for lobbying, and it has little influence. Gallo never talks about the eBay app. It's not specific, but there will be counter lobbying. This is a new link. Gallo 19. In recent years, a divide as well among large IT companies. Some IT companies secretly rely on patent protection. Some rely on open dissemination of information for a more lax system. Lobbying is wrong, proven by FTC crackdown. New Hig not responsive. It just says big tech is big at lobbying, not that it outweighs the scope of the link proper. Go back to compartmentalization. Cross-domain spillover occurs. Rogowski 17. Results provide co-evidence to action of implication for bargaining success with domestic policy on precedence will powers implication from substance success. Legislative goals. President and Congress do not bargain area by area. Rather, actions one domain have implications for another. And it's already a political tightrope to unify the party. Rubin 24. Republicans are trying to fit as many priorities as possible into one bill next year. Engineering that legislation is Republicans' best chance of quickly exploiting unified control. Balance succeed. The path that is political and arithmetical and procedural tightrope. They must maintain near perfect unity.
What was it? 544. 544.
Yes.
Is everyone good for an order? Advantage 2, advantage 1, eBay counterplan, liability counterplan, the design.
Wait, advantage 2, advantage 1, then what?
The eBay counterplan, the liability pick, then the design.
Yeah.
Downloading.
Anyone not good?
Tech supremacy deters extension China war. Taiwan invasion trust in the US goes nuclear evidence from 2 months ago, which means that time period outweighs. You only die once, so you should try to live another day. And any risk of defensive disadvantage outweighs because the counterplan does not solve the case. Advantage 2 not going, advantage 1 not going for it. But the counterplan generates uniqueness for all offensive disadvantage, drops all the impacts. They literally conceded at the top of the liability pick. So it is a disact to the first counterplan. Innovation impact is relevant because it's about the downsides of innovation. Doesn't dispute the fact that we can actually innovate, which means that 5G innovation still holds. Advantage 1 eBay counterplan. Injunctive relief is bad. They cannot solve advantage 2. Injunctions are key to innovation and they kill all of it. This was explicitly conceded by the Twin C on the other counterplan. It also doesn't solve advantage 2. Injunctions are in SCPs, then and people can take in SCPs. Then there are patent trolls that can zero all of 5G innovation, which is a card that we explicitly read in the Twin C. The impact was conceded on liability, which means the counterplan results in extinction. Certainly, by this devastating economy through patent trolls that collapse the stock market, eBay fails. It is worse because the eBay kills all injunctions now, but the counterplan reverses that. It forced a very high bar for any patent litigation for injunctions to be granted in the first place, which means that if trolls are allowed to get injunctions, they can devastate the entire field. No difference between courts and Congress. All injunctions are bad, which is entirely what we're talking about. It's a direct critique of ideas to overturn the eBay decision. The liability counterplan, no net benefit. Injunctions alone solve patent litigation, cost millions of dollars. Here's a card that verifies the shock 50 lawsuits cost millions similar for both the owner and the infringer. Companies can turn infringement by building a portfolio of damages are tiny, which is the card they conceded in 2AC. There's no incentive for trolls to even litigate in the first place. It's a loss of money for them because if the damages are less than the money that they're putting into the lawsuit in the first place, they wouldn't litigate, which means that injunctions are the only ways they can solve because they are actually a credible threat. The plan does not cause injunctions to be revitalized, which means that there's no link to their benefit. They want to be litigatable. They drop the low damage stuff, which all means that injunctions, that the patent trolls literally cannot operate under the eBay framework. Dupo solves the entirety of the counterplan. They dropped it. Also implements the injunction and also implements the infringement rule. No need to run our answers because the 2AC does not say one. This is the 2AC what's made the complete argument. 2 deficits. 1, clarity is key. People will abuse it because there's no definition about what innocent infringement is because that's a complete loophole to the eBay stuff. We saw China SCPs are global and the deterrence factor is SCPs are global in nature. Second is no deterrence. People can infringe if they don't do research. Tramples all over patents. Quincy Crossing said, and as long as they didn't have prior knowledge, which is enough, they don't have to research about that because it's innocent. The counterplan exempts liability in cases where we didn't know, which means that people will just not research at all, freely infringe and deterrence and kills up deterrent effective patents. That's key to advantage 2. That's what's in 2AC. The dissent. F solves the economy, but the economy does not solve war printing because we still have technology, which means the F innovation solves and overcomes the Trump's case arguments. Not unique or overwhelmed. Framing issue. Trump would never let it go in any way because every single one of their uniqueness evidence says that it's a prerequisite to his agenda that proves that he will do it in some way, shape, or form. Even if Johnson is passing votes now, that is irrelevant because all the uniqueness evidence does not say that there's a possibility it will not pass. Even if this version of the bill doesn't pass, Trump will just do it some way, some other way, which is the entirety of our argument. Uniqueness says that Trump will do it no matter what. There's no difference because even if passage is stalled, it is literally must pass for Trump. This version will pass. The first debate evidence is wrong because it says that this version will not pass. Johnson has struggled with he has a 1 mil margin and he will not do it. The House caucus is not key because obviously Trump is Republican and they would agree with this agenda, but the Democrats are not getting on board. This version will pass. Also inserted by the Linus and Shao evidence. Both versions can agree that Trump will not get this version to pass, but he will do it inevitably as per all of their other evidence. Some will. If Trump wants to, then it is relevant. Trump will use his PC or whatever method or use his influence at least to get it passed somewhat. You need a bill to be introduced, which means that none of this is unique at all. There's nothing saying that a a bill or a proposal would even be introduced remotely near in the future, they said that the proposal would be good, not necessarily that it would happen. So that even if the plan causes fights, that is irrelevant because there's no proposal in the first place. Now, Trump would just absorb all the impacts of this, and he would just raise the debt ceiling on his own interim. Or they've dropped that he can just use the 14th Amendment and bypass all of Congress, even if there's congressional backlash. That is irrelevant because he can literally just use the executive order inflation, no link evidence, and there's no terminal impact. It's just about the debt ceiling, which means that it does not matter. But also, Congress also let us run to the basic reality of the large spending with taxes, helping inflation instead of debt ceiling. She calls for much time to approach Congress. Does not propose legislation to prevent the actually matters offset inflation. Diversionary tools, tax rates, and automatically tell the financial regulations, increase interest rates, and serving costs, or public investment. Now, the interpretation FIAFs are not must pass. It's the most real world, and FIAFs must pass as regular legislation. And just FIAF just means that the app passes. It's most real world and predictable. Otherwise, they get tons of dissatisfied out of real world literature and makes it impossible for the affirmative to debate. Now, link turn the affirmative. Lobbies would fight for the plan. The affirmative should only have evidence about the strength of lobbying, even if those other countries, all those companies lobby, as long as Apple and Microsoft do it. Tech lobbying is overpowered and quote reshapes all of America. This is bypassing all the links because it proves that Congress would just listen to whatever the tech lobbies say about the plan. Therefore, there will not be any fights, and the plan will pass without any of it. They fight other lobbies. Interest groups are beneficiary if they've had knowledgeable to natural cultural development may help to make it responsible AIA. Authorities have still mitigated to rely on passive insurance reduces dependence facility participation, public interest in running countries with patent groups, and lobbying always backlash. Fashion 21, the consent of standards that the members, cash check representing 2 there's a Congress only 14 million for drug industry cut remains routine. If they ever say a time frame link, that's obviously irrelevant and zero because there's no time frame for the debt ceiling, you can just pass it. And some other points, and that might stray Trump's agenda, but the fact that Trump wants it so bad means they feel pass it regardless.
No F says they won't just raise the debt ceiling.
No F says they won't just raise the debt ceiling. They won't abolish, but they will just raise it.
Okay. We have 245 or 232 starting.
is the liability pick, then eBay, then politics.
Take eBay politics.
Yes.
Cool. No cards I assume.
evaluate the counterplan through offense defense, and it's game over for the TOER. They have no reason why universally applying the app standard, including in instances of innocent infringement, is key. Any risk that an exemption for innocent infringement is good means you should vote neg, because there's no way the app could possibly be better. They have dropped sufficiency framing, which means this should make the TOER almost impossible. If there's any risk of the net benefit being, or that the counterplan solves even slightly better for patent trolls than the app, and that isn't a reason to vote neg, because there's absolutely no way they can justify the app being a better idea. Patent trolls cause extinction. They cause nuclear war from economic decline and environmental collapse. That's the 1AC Moyo evidence which they dropped. They say no. The first argument was no net benefit. This is zero. Again, drop sufficiency framing means any risk, so I shouldn't have to win a lot here. But the stuff about there being no incentive is wrong. 1AC Crossx clearly explained that even if there is not a huge incentive for patent trolls to litigate against innocent infringers right now, it still exists to some extent. That means the counterplan solves better because it adopts a negligence rule that completely eliminates that as a possibility, because innocent infringement cannot be litigated at all. There's only a risk that we solve patent trolls better because we eliminate any possible incentive or legal possibility for that to happen. Even the card the stuff about it being tiny doesn't matter. There's still some incentive. There's still some incentive in the context of SCPs and the status quo, which means the counterplan certainly solves it better. They cannot get up and say that presumption flips app, because any differential in how much the app solves versus the counterplan is a reason. Any differential in how much better the counterplan solves relative to the app is again a reason to vote neg. They have not met their burden of proof by they've not actually said that there is literally no incentive for people to infringe for people to litigate against innocent infringement in the status quo, which would be the burden they have to meet for presumption to flip app. The next argument was perm to vote. I know we didn't explicitly answer it in the 2NC, but I know that neither of you can logically vote on this. I explicitly said on perm to the counterplan in the 2NC that the app still enables innocent infringement to be litigated against. I said that the standard of strict liability means that's a possibility in the status quo. Obviously, you would not, because of the offense defense stuff. You should not vote for do both if the counterplan alone solves better. This was also a blip in the 1AR. So if there's any extrapolation that for some reason I didn't catch, or they're going to blow up, then you should disallow it. The next argument was the clarity deficit. There's absolutely no impact to this. If it is, it certainly doesn't cause extinction, which is the burden they have to get to since they've dropped the net benefit to the counterplan, which is the 1AC Moyo evidence. But it definitely doesn't link. The stuff about deterrence and research doesn't obviously is wrong. You have to for innocent infringement for you to innocently infringe, you have to have no prior knowledge that the invention that you're infringing upon was patented. Obviously, you would have to do some level of research to even infringe to not be an innocent infringer, which means their stuff doesn't make sense. You can't just not research and then infringe on a patent, because that is the definition of innocent infringement. You will be held liable if the court finds out that you did even some research, or you you had even some intention to infringe. Obviously, it is not like people are just are going to somehow subconsciously know that some invention is patented and then infringe on it, because that's just not how the law works. Any risk that the courts will be able to effectively apply this standard means that there's no risk of a deficit, because the innocent infringement will only apply in certain instances, and people cannot fake innocent infringement. This is a well-established part of patent law. Our cards make a legal distinction between it. That proves judges are obviously going to be able to be capable of doing that and differentiating between innocent infringement and whatever they think the counterplan might lead to. This is zero. There's also no impact to it. Certainly not one that outweighs the net benefit. eBay. Conceding a deficit, there was nothing that was cross-applicable. The only thing that they might be able to cross-apply was the vague stuff at the end of case that impacts the advantage one or a deficit. I don't know if that was in reference to this counterplan or the other one, but either way, we certainly solve it, because we still allow the same protections by providing remedies in all instances except innocent infringement. So any cross-applications are already answered. Politics. So the counterplan definitely solves the straight turn. The counter lobbying stuff is irrelevant because there's no reason that applying a single exemption to innocent infringement would suddenly cause corporations not to lobby in favor of the plan. That means this cannot possibly be offense for them. But we solve economic decline either way, which is the Moyo evidence.
That they'll raise the debt.
Concede that they'll raise the debt ceiling, which is absolute internal defense. There shouldn't be any offense. Literally any risk, even if the counterplan maybe solves one person from litigating against an innocent infringer, that is a reason to vote neg. They have dropped sufficiency framing. They have no actual deficit because they don't know how patent law or courts work.
Okay, that was 243.
It's advantage to the pick.
Leave this in. Is anybody not good?
Cool. Moving on.
The loss of tech leadership immediately goes nuclear and encourages China to expand their spheres of influence and attack the SES and Taiwan. Our cards are fantastic on this as the mere perception is sufficient, which is the reason why any risk of deficit I win is a certain existential deficit to the counterpart because they have dropped the case. This outweighs for two reasons. First is time frame. It outweighs ours is perception based, whereas their internal link is they have to win so long of an internal link that it's way far down the line. First, they have to win that enough panic trolling occurs over time once people develop a precedent, once people are certain that the precedent is sufficient for them to be allowed to troll, that it literally destroys the stock market, which is the internal link. That takes a very, very long time, especially when they do not have a perception internal link, but we do. Perception certainly must be faster because it allows China to short circuit and presume that we're going to do something in the future, whereas the economy has to actually be seen down spiraling in the world of the negative. Second is it turns the economy because tech leadership is the technological sector is the core of our modern economy. If that goes down, and so does the rest of our economy. That means we have inverse their offense, but they have none into ours. 3, they conceded that the debt ceiling will be abolished on the DISAD. That implicates the impact because this is defense. Trump won't be able to spend whatever, which ensures stability. That's the wolf evidence, which is the exact thing they conceded. Specifically, they dropped an MMT card. Our evidence says that if there's no debt ceiling to restrain the government, that they're able to spend however they want using any fiscal tools available to stabilize the economy. Even if patent trolls are a big issue, that doesn't matter because it doesn't assume a completely unrestrained monetary policy that can be used by the government to make sure that the financial sector has liquidity no matter what. This is a massive piece of defense, which means that even if I don't win a massive risk of a deficit or of the perm solving the internal, then you can be certain that any risk of a deficit is sufficient for the drop case to outweigh the pick. The deficits are huge, which means the sufficiency framing stuff doesn't apply. It also presumes that the perm doesn't solve pretty much 100% of the counterfund, which I'll go to now. Perm do both that only solves this. You should have a massive threshold for the 2NR and be very, very restricted when you look at what the 2NR said versus what the 1AR said. In fact, you shouldn't even permit the cross applications because the perm do both was extremely explicit in the 2AC. It even had a justification. Regardless, the perm to the counterfund answers certainly do not apply. These are all reasons why the plan alone would not contain the exception. That can be possible, but that doesn't
an answer or explanation to do both. If you do both the plan and the counterplan, that just includes the exception of the counterplan with the plan's policy. There's no reason that the plan precludes it, which is the burden that they have to win. In order to win an answer to this, the plan would have to explicitly ban the exception, not just not include it. That doesn't matter. Regardless, even if it did, the counterplan's field would outweigh. I'll quote a couple lines from the 2NR. I quote, completely eliminates the strict liability requirement. And they quote, can't infringe at all. These are sweeping claims which mean that you should presume the scope of fiat for their exception being very, very big, even if it's just SCPs. That should certainly overwhelm the plan, which doesn't even take a stance on if there's an exception or which doesn't even take a stance on if there's an exception or not. Regardless, this doesn't have to solve 100% of patent trolls, it just has to solve enough, so that the deficits outweigh. I'll go there now. First, it's a clarity deficit. This thing is huge. Their evidence specifically says that the infringers will never know if their infringement is going to be innocent. The 2NC cross-sex was not helpful here. It says that if they had no knowledge or if they didn't intend to, how do you prove intent? You don't know if you'll be caught. You don't know if a single Google search into the type of technology is considered intent. The ambiguity, especially when there's no precedent for this in any other area of law that's been articulated by the negative, should means that investors will be very, very uncertain, especially when developing SCP technology. This is a certain deficit to the second advantage because they dropped all of the certainty stuff that I read in the 2AC on the multi-lag counterplan. This was applied. It says that, quote, uncertainty reduces SCP value, which undermines reliability and destroys the incentive to invest. This outweighs the impact of patent trolls, especially because the permutation solves this. Regardless, we have an explicit clarity deficit that was articulated in the 2AC as a deficit to advantage 2, which means that you should have their burden for answering this and having answered it correctly in the block very, very high. They definitely didn't. Their arguments are untrue. You should presume that the threshold is low because even if you think that you're innocent or you believe you're innocent, there's no guarantee that will hold up in court, especially when you're facing down $1 million lawsuit, which is the card they dropped in the 1AR. That means that the threshold is massive. They'll just refrain from investing or even attempting to innovate things because they believe they may incur millions and millions of dollars in penalties if they even happen to even trip over it. Only the plan is a clear, bright line which resolves that because the retest and the enhanced damages are far, far more certain than just saying, well, if you're innocent, you won't get punished by the law. Our second argument is the research deficit. You're able to circumvent this if you're attempting to intentionally infringe by just intentionally staying off, for example, the patent archive. There's no explanation of what constitutes having knowledge beforehand of what you are infringing over. If you just don't look up the patent archive, is that sufficient? And the fact that they don't know and they haven't explained this to you is the reason why at least the certainty deficit should be supercharged. Regardless, infringers would just take precautions. They would wipe their browser history. They would have someone else do it for them. There's no guarantee of them having anything, especially during the R&D process. There's a massive economic incentive to lie because you're able to infringe on the future of our technological leadership. The implication here is that they solve none of the act because innocent infringers would have no idea if they're infringed or not and stay away, and malicious infringers would just circumvent it using a loophole. That means that they solve none of the act. Permutation do both solves all of the net benefit, and the deficit is huge because I need to only win a risk of any of these arguments in order to win the debate. Good debate. Sorry.
Yay, debate.
I have to play Rocky